back to Jen's Before Friends, episode 33. Yep, whoop
Ooh,
whoop.
look at us.
I am here with my lovely Swift and co-host, Mockingbird
Hello, everyone.
and Morbid Plum.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about all things Orela Rose, our new survivor. We're going to give you all the lore, do a deep dive into the perks, maybe let you in on some secrets. And so Orela is from the newest half chapter that was recently released on May 6th, chapter 35.5, Steady Pulse. She is, I think, the 46th survivor. We've gotten a lot of
Yes.
survivors now. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have her page pulled up.
That's
She
what
has
the
number
wiki says.
Yes, that's what it
46.
says. I'm not going to count them all. I'm going to trust the wiki. In the wiki, we trust. She's pretty cool. I have enjoyed playing her. I would say her perks are mid-ish, maybe some a little bit lower. They're not groundbreaking. There's a couple that go really well with some certain combinations. But we will dive into her lore and find out all things Orela, where she came from, and why they told us that there was a connection to Sable in the beginning, when there's not really.
Aw, spoilers.
I know. I'm sorry.
Spoiler alert.
I just didn't want to get anyone's hopes up because I was like, the survivor connected to Sable. And then I was like, oh, is that a real connection? I'm not sure.
I know. I got excited too, and then I was like, well, never mind.
You can let us know.
Really.
But Miss Orela Rose grew up on Chicago's far north side in Rogers Park, just blocks from Lake Michigan. Her dad was a firefighter and her mom was a nurse. She couldn't help but observe how much they sacrificed to help others, and she knew that she would one day do the same in her own way. So she has ambition. Orela majored in hospitality at Lakehead University. Freshman year, she bonded with Emily, a girl in her restaurant management class, who helped her through her transition. So Orela is the first trans woman in the game, but not the first trans survivor, and I'll get into that later. So Emily was a huge fan of horror movies, and she regularly listened to recordings of an old podcast called All Things Wicked This Night. The host was Sable Ward. Often talked about the stories of a horror named Cliff Barra. Many were made into the movies in the 1950s and became cult classics. The art director Alex DeMauro survived the horror's bore and infused the macabre sets and costumes with a palpable sense of dread. Orela and Emily couldn't get enough. So they really enjoyed listening to this podcast. They hung out at the Hard Boiled Cafe, which 10 out of 10 name for a cafe.
I love that so much.
I do
don't know
too.
why.
It was a coffee shop and bookstore with a 1950s mystery theme. They so loved that atmosphere, yeah. They made plans to one day open a themed restaurant of their own. They would create a dining experience that recreated the horror stories, character sets, and costumes of Bara and Tomorrow. And I do apologize if I'm saying anything wrong. These are not
right.
Yeah, these are not real people. I did look it up. They are people made for like games.
Yeah, because the Cliff Bar, I think, is in the lore.
He's in the lore, yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly in the realms. They wanted to create a place where people could escape their humdrum lives, spend an hour or two living on the edge. The idea so excited them that they created a haunted house for Halloween to try out those ideas. They commandeered an empty college dormitory to build the haunted Madhouse of Doom. 10 out of 10 name.
I know, right?
Yeah,
the names in this are great.
Pretty good, right? On Halloween, dozens of students lined up to experience the terror of an insane asylum based on one of Cliff Barr's most celebrated stories. Orela led groups of laughing and screaming college students past padded cells and torture chambers filled with axe murderers, groaning zombies, and wailing ghosts. This kind of reminds me of like the quote unquote hell houses they had like in the 80s and early 90s that we were forced to go to. I don't know why I did that. That's why I'm traumatized.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. In this haunted house, there was a shock therapy room. The shock therapy room featured a jury-rigged shock table. Emily played the part of a writhing patient wired up for a shock treatment. She wore a headpiece fitted with electrodes that would light up and smoke and spark once Orela told one of the students to throw the switch. They used the shock table dozens of times, and each time Emily would shake and shriek like a banshee, eliciting a chorus of delighted screams. This time, however, a frayed wire shorted out, and Emily didn't shriek but went rigid. There were sparks and smoke and the smell of burnt meat. Miraculously, Emily was still alive after Orela pulled the plug. They called for an ambulance, and as they waited, Emily's breathing grew shallower and shallower. By the time the EMTs finally arrived, Emily was gone. Very traumatizing experience for Orela.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. The next day, Orela dropped out of college and started training to become an EMT. She never, ever wanted to feel that helpless again. Her parents were surprised but supported her, and within a year, Orela was driving an ambulance and saving lives. She had a natural talent for soothing and calming those who needed her most. Both nurturing and protective, she had a knack for taking charge and bringing people together. Still, she never forgot Emily or the dream of opening a horror-themed restaurant based on the movies of Bara and Damaro. Working as an EMT, she knew it would take her years to save enough money, but then one day she rescued John Kingsley, a man worth billions. Called to the scene of a terrible car crash, she found he wasn't breathing. She instantly performed CPR and restarted his heart with a portable defibrillator. His doctor later said he would have surely died if not for Orela. Grateful for saving his life, he offered to finance her dreams and gifted her an old building located at 900 I think that's supposed to be Blood Lane, BLUD Lane, across an old cemetery. Of course it is. Of course.
It's supposed to be blood, but it's spelled
Yeah,
with a U.
yeah, it tells the U.
Oh, maybe it's like blood. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Blood.
Blood Lane.
It's a fancy way. It's
Yeah.
a fancy way of saying blood.
Yeah, Blood Lane across from a cemetery. At least they got the aesthetics right.
I know. She's wanting to do horror themes. So there
I
you
know.
go.
With financing in the perfect location, Orela hired some friends to help her design the most immersive horror experience ever. Screams in the Dark would open only 1 week in a month to start, each time with a completely unique set, theme, and menu. Soon it was all horror enthusiasts could talk about. People loved the Barra de Mara aesthetic, and many wanted Orela to open 6 days a week. But for Orela, it wasn't about the money. She was perfectly content saving lives Monday through Friday and creating horror and mayhem once a month. One time, she themed the experience around a Barra story about a mysterious fog that transported victims to another dimension. Some believe the words in the story were cursed and somehow made readers disappear. She laughed those superstitions off until later that night when a black fog rose up around her. She hurried outside, but the black fog was everywhere. She froze suddenly and called out to her friends. No one answered. Then she heard cries for help, calling out to her from the dark. Orela didn't panic. She never panicked. She merely assessed the situation and pushed through the thickening fog until she froze with a sudden realization. The sound. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to English. I'm editing as I'm reading.
This sentence doesn't make sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I thought it was just me. So the sound of cries basically were coming from all around her and kind of nowhere at the same time. So for the first time in years, Orela felt a shudder run down her spine as she realized her dream had somehow led her into a living nightmare. A nightmare not unlike the one described in Barra's cursed story. And as she processed this strange observation, the anguished cries came again and again, louder and more desperate. Only this time, there were many different voices, and one of them sounded like Emily. So we have the entity messing with people's minds again.
Oh.
Instantly, Orela shook off her superstitions and became all business as she urgently searched the dark abyss for the wounded and dying before it was too late. So she got pulled into the fog, and she decided she was going to help people. And
Dun, dun, dun.
and that is the story of Miss Orela Rose. So with Orela, I don't know, what do you guys think of the story?
I like her story. I was waiting to see. Okay, so when her friend Emily dies by being electrocuted, I didn't know if they were going to make a reference to the doctor. It made me really think of the doctor.
Oh.
But there's not really like a direct tie, but that's what that reminded me of.
That would be kind of a cool thing for them to tie it to.
Yeah, but they don't mention like the doctor or the asylum or anything like that. It's cool that she doesn't do the restaurant full time too. She just like sticks to her guns of like her, because even though it was like her and Emily's dream to do this restaurant, with Emily's passing, she's has like another calling now,
Yeah.
right? She's called to help people, and she's not going to give that part of herself up for the restaurant. So she's kind of honoring Emily in both aspects of her life, with helping people and also having the restaurant.
Which I like that. I like that she's trying to like honor someone she obviously really cared about. And in this process of unfortunately, losing Emily, she kind of found another calling. And I will say for DVD lore stories for her, it's pretty short compared to some of the lore that we've
that is
got
a good point. I didn't
recently.
think of that.
Yeah, compared to other lore stories, this one is pretty like quick and like to the point. Like, this is what happens. This is like the cause and effect, and here we are. Now she's in the fog. Yay!
What about the Sable connection? It's very
not
Very
even a
lax. It's not
connection.
really connection. They're just listening to the podcast.
Well, then I love how like now Sable has like a podcast. Was that in her original lore? Like, I'm just like,
pretty sure it was.
Was it?
I can't remember.
Wow, I'm bad. I don't even remember that in her lore.
Hang on, I'll go look real quick.
Yeah,
I know. I'm
pretty
like,
sure that was part of her lore.
Well, if they did, I don't remember. But her lore was also very long.
Yeah, they started to have they started to have a thing where lore got really, really long. So I was kind of surprised when this one was so short, but it's kind of sweet and to the point, And
she produced a guerrilla radio show on the shortwave in her attic. All Things Wicked This Night.
I mean, it's not on her official wiki if you want to like go by that, but I mean, I guess maybe
it's in the wiki.
Well,
no, it's in that. That's what I just read from. But they don't call it a podcast.
Oh, that's why. Okay,
it's a guerrilla radio show on the
I tried to
shortwave
find it.
in her attic. Yeah, I searched podcast. I was like, really? But then it says All Things Wicked This Night was about the world's dark underbelly, the occult, urban legends, horror, and often there were heated discussions with Michaela about the horror movies they'd catch at the only theater in Greenville.
Okay, so it kind of is a podcast. It's more of like a radio show.
It's a radio show.
It is a long format thing. It's the same. Okay, interesting.
I don't think it's a huge connection though for them to be like,
no,
she's related to like another survivor. No, she just happened to listen to Sable's podcast. I personally like the connection she has to other people. Well, I guess it wouldn't even be a connection, but bringing up Bara and Damaro, who we have lore based on. Bara more than I think Damaro, but there's speculations about them both being in the fog. I think that's interesting that they decided to connect her to the realm already that way. But yeah, the Sable thing, it was kind of a little far-fetched. When they first said it was going to be something related to Sable, I got really excited, and I thought we were going to get Michaela's actual friend that's mentioned in her lore.
No,
I was upset when I realized that was
Julian?
it. I was like,
yeah, I thought it was going to be Julian. And I don't want to say I'm upset that we got Orela, because I think Orela is really cool.
Yes.
But hashtag we want Julian.
Yeah.
Julian and Jordan, okay?
Julian and Jordan, the two J's. We're bringing back the
J's we need.
I just thought that there would be more of a connection than that. Then just like, oh, I listened to her podcast. I thought it was going to be like, oh yeah, we like actually knew each other, or like she frequented her bookstore or cafe or whatever. But I guess that's not the case.
Or even her reaching out to Sable. See, I don't know, because it says it was an older podcast, so I don't know what time, around when time frame we're talking about, if Sable was already taken by the entity or not. But it would also make sense if she was to go through something like this, and maybe there were already like inklings of something out there, her reaching out to Sable would make sense to me. And having that connection that way. So I think it was a missed opportunity to make that connection a little deeper.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad that we got Orela at all.
Oh no, I like her so far. Like, just her lore has been very interesting, and like I said, not as long, but also in depth enough to give me an idea of who she is.
You know, at the end of the day, it's better than Lady Voldemort's lore, so we're okay.
10 out of 10 would agree.
There's a lot of lore better than Lady Voldemort.
I know.
But yeah, I am glad this isn't like 10 pages long either. Like,
Yeah.
this is just really the heart of who Orela is.
Yeah.
We don't need to like deep dive into like her whole childhood and everything.
Yeah.
What we have here tells us everything we need to know about her character and how like her whole world turned upside down with Emily's death and how that changed her. And, you know, and then she had the good fortune of saving that millionaire's life. Or was
John
she?
Kingsley, yeah.
And then so then she got to even live out that dream as well.
Yeah.
And so, but then
And she
here
got
comes
to
Entity.
Yeah.
Blood Street or Blood Street or whatever. Blood Lane, sorry.
I wonder if there's something with this address because it's like they actually put a specific address in 900.
They like to do that though. They've made up like their own islands that are based on actual like historical islands, like in the Blight's lore. But sometimes behavior, like when they're creating things, it's just like they'll create things that are almost like parallel to things that actually exist, which I think helps give it some substance. I don't know if this is a reference to something. It'd be interesting to see if it was like a reference to something because it is very specific.
I just Googled it and it came up with the DVD chapter.
Yeah.
So I don't see anything else.
I didn't even get a hit on a DVD chapter. I got a Zillow thing, but it's not
really.
She's like, name. I actually got a house.
I got a bunch of like house listings, but they're just like 900 Castle Lane, and I'm like, this isn't even close. What are you doing?
It'd be so funny if you got a house. You'd be like, I got a house, and on it says "Screams in the Dark."
Right? It's actually 900 Bud Lane, and we can buy it.
Yeah, I got 900 Blue Jay Lane.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's close-ish, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
There's cemetery across the street.
It's like Slaughter Lane. Wherever we're driving.
It's like on the nose.
There's always a Slaughter Lane somewhere.
900 Blue Lane, maybe? I don't know. It just was funny that it popped up and said that.
But with Orela came, of course, 3 new perks.
As always.
As always.
Wait. Do we want to talk about, you said there was something about another trans character.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. Hold on.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We were in the lore part. I thought it was the lore part.
I'm building up to it.
Okay. You can
Keep
cut it out.
Sorry. Continue. No, it's okay. I'm keeping it all in. There's going to be no editing. I'm not fixing anything in post.
Oh boy.
So her perks.
Going all in.
Yeah, I'm going all in. Just full send now, right now. Her first perk is Do No Harm, and it says helping those in need comes easily, no matter how dire things get. When healing another survivor, depending on their accumulated hook stages, you benefit from the following effects. Increase your altruistic healing speed by up to 50% per hook stage, up to a maximum of 100%, and increases the progression bonus of great healing skill checks. That's a tongue twister. By plus 3% per hook stage, up to a maximum of plus 6%. Of course, the 50% and 100% if you have the perk fully tiered up. And the little quote says, "Look at me, my name's Orela, and I'm going to make sure you're all right." And she does talk throughout the match, so very much like Nicolas Cage. She does have voice lines voiced by Angelica Ross, and she does talk throughout the match as well. So this one's really interesting for those fast heals. Basically, more hook stages you have, the faster you can be healed with this perk, which compared with some other perks can help pull off some pretty quick heals in, the last stages of the match when everyone's kind of on their last hook or, the next hook's dying. So that can come in handy. Her next perk is Duty of Care. It says you live by a code of conduct every day of your life and are all the better for it. While healthy, taking a protection hit causes all other survivors within 12 meters of your location to benefit from the following effect. It grants them a 25% haste for up to 6 seconds. That's pretty big. I will say I haven't been able to pull it off yet. I keep trying to go in for protection hits, and it hasn't happened. But one day I will.
I'm really surprised I haven't seen like videos with content creators using this perk to get like teammates out of trouble. Maybe it's coming. I don't know.
I have. I've seen videos on TikTok.
I was just going to say that this would be a good one for like unhooking or picking someone up kind of thing and like helping them run away.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything, I don't think, yet.
Yeah.
But
I saw a video on TikTok the other day. I want to incorporate it because, as everyone knows, I'm trying to create the perfect like stealth tank build. And the moment I saw this, I was like, this would be perfect to go in and take a protection hit, get somebody safely away. Because 25% haste for up to 6 seconds, that's a lot. That's you getting them all the way across the map.
Getting into exit gate is really what I see this being super useful as an end game.
Yeah. That's a good end game perk.
Getting someone off the hook in the end game and then they get a protection hit so they can run away.
So I've been playing around with my self tank builds for thinking about using this one. And then her third and final perk is rapid response. It says when the moment comes, you give it your all. Your survival depends on it. After performing a rushed action to exit a locker, rapid response triggers its effects. The aura of the killer is revealed to you for 2 seconds, and it causes you to suffer from the exhausted status effect for up to 20 seconds. And rapid response cannot be used while exhausted. This one, I think this is probably the one that there's better perks if you want to see.
This is the worst perk.
Yes, this is the worst one. Yeah,
this is actually probably the worst aura reading perk for Survivor, to be honest.
Yeah, I think when I was playing the other day, right after this came out, we were talking about that, and I was like, I wouldn't run this one over like Alert or something.
Alert, or which is the Victoria one, Fogwise?
Fogwise, yeah.
Yes, Fogwise.
I mean, I guess you could run this one with Quick and Quiet so they don't hear you coming out of the locker, but it's 2 seconds of aura reading, though. I know. It's so low.
There are others. Plus, you get the exhausted status for up to 30 seconds. So
up 20. Well, okay. 30, 25, 20, depending on how you have it tiered up.
Yeah. So
you also run Wiretap too. Like, there's just other perks that are better for showing the killer's aura. Yeah, I wouldn't run this one.
I agree.
And like, I wouldn't like. What's the benefit? I don't know. Because if you fast vault, they're gonna, and you don't run Quick and Quiet, they're gonna know where you are.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those ones you're like, well, if I'm on the other side of the map or haven't seen the killer, let me hop in a locker quick and get out. But I can only see like you using it if you're away from the killer. But then what's the point of you hopping into a locker and not staying on a gen if the killer's not around you?
Yeah.
I could maybe see it in chase, but only if you're running like a chase build that has like Quick and Quiet, maybe head on. Because once you hop into a locker, they're going to hear that anyways.
But if you're in chase, you know where the killer's at, though.
He's chasing you. He's behind you.
Yeah. So it's like, why run this? I just don't get the point. I don't get the point of running this perk. I think I don't want to be too harsh, but this one you could throw it in the trash as far as I'm concerned. This is not there's nothing like technically wrong with the perk, but it's just like, why would you use this perk?
2 seconds, especially for just 2 seconds of aura reading.
2 seconons. Like, you could be looking the wrong direction. The aura reading's gone already.
I feel like we could have gotten another healing perk from her. Like something, I know that like they have the other healing speed one and then the protection hit, but this doesn't scream EMT like paramedic to me. Or not paramedic, but like, I don't know. It doesn't match to me like what I would have thought from her, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind having another locker perk, but this is not it. Like, I really want them to have a locker perk where you see the aura of lockers.
Ooh, that would be cool. This one would have been good, like to have used for her. She could have had something like that.
I feel like the way they set it up, because a little quote from Orela at the bottom says, "All right, you got this. 3, 2, 1, go!" Like as if you were making a move to do something. Which in my mind means that I feel like the intention of this perk was never for it to stand alone, but for someone to use it, like in the case of maybe doing it head on when you exit the locker, then you can see them to try to run away or something like that. But then why are we creating perks that can't really just stand on their own within a build?
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you all know I absolutely love Alert. It's one of my favorite aura rating perks. I pretty much run it every time.
It's a good perk.
This one, I just don't see the benefit of doing it other than, if you're far away, just checking maybe a locker quick to see who it is, or hopping in a locker real quick at the beginning of the match to maybe see who the killer is. But most of the time, I just get that with alert, because most killers, the very first thing they do is go to shack and start breaking walls, or go to main building and start, breaking walls.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to see them anyways. That's one of the first thing almost every killer does. And then I'm immediately like, oh, I know who it is.
Yeah.
Like, I feel this is made for like solo survivor.
I can see that.
To figure out where the killer is, but like the fast fall is just what I guess kills me, because I'm like, I wouldn't want to give away my position
because you have to rush out
over just seeing the killer for 2 seconds. And then there's also I just thought about Lucky Star. Lucky Star, while you don't see the killer, you see your teammates, and I'm like,
I love that perk.
That's a better perk.
I've been running that a lot,
too.
and it's a very good perk with them quiet.
Like there's just better locker perks or reading perks.
So I would say 2 mid ones and 1. Why is it there?
Now, I will say I'm surprised there's not like an OP perk out of this, because this came up when Michaela came out, because Michaela was like the first paragraph chapter to come out. That's what they call the single character chapters or paragraphs. And she came, of course, with all the boons, right? And Boon Circle and Healing back in the day when it came out was the best. And
RIP.
And where you could heal yourself in the boon. But the point was, like, to sell the chapter of Michaela, right, they had really strong perks, if that makes sense. So I'm surprised Orela doesn't have at least one like really strong perk, being that she's an original survivor.
Yeah.
Because there's no otherwise, like, what's the draw in buying Orela? Unless you just like, her aesthetic and all that.
Aesthetic or the story.
But yeah, like we've talked about this, like with survivors. Survivors are basically skins. Like they do have their own perks, but like then you can put once you have them unlocked, you put the perks on anyone. They don't have like individual abilities or powers. So I am surprised her perks are not stronger. I'm really surprised there's not like another OP healing perk, because like Morbid said, just since she's an EMT, right? Healing makes the most sense. And
I think they tried to go a little bit of a different angle with her in regards to not just being a healer, but being somebody who, when other people are in the face of danger, she reacts. So that's kind of why I think not all of her perks are necessarily like healing based. So like the one healing when we do have, under those dire circumstances, she keeps her calm, right? So she's healing super fast. Duty of care, I really do think that is just being altruistic in general. And I guess you could maybe even call it like an anti-tunneling perk to try to help someone get away. Rapid response, maybe they just ran out of ideas.
You know what perk they should have gave Orela? They should have gave her Tori's hook exchange perk.
Oh yeah. Well, none of Tori's perks make sense.
None of her, but like her like taking someone's place.
It would make sense.
Something Orela would do. You know
Which
what I mean?
Like, I think is what Duty of Care is, because the haste status effect, from my understanding, it's to everyone around you, not you. So you really are putting yourself in danger so everyone else can get away, and most likely you're probably going to be the next target.
Well, but you could run Duty of Care with something like Dead Hard.
Yeah.
To help or Metal Man. Dead Hard's probably your best pick, but then you're injured and then you could take another hit.
If you're trying to get away stealthily, like I was thinking, like you go in, take a hit, maybe have Lucky Break, Iron Will, you're trying to disappear as fast as possible, get behind a wall, maybe have Bite the Bullet, where you're kind of unseen and everyone just kind of gets away.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to play it, and also depends on what the killer ends up doing if they switch targets to you. That's why I said Dead Hard, because
Dead Hard's a good one. Yeah,
it just depends on your style of gameplay and what the killer does, because you never know what the killer's going to do. It is a good get your teammate away from danger. I see this being very good in like in game, or if someone's getting tunneled, you can get in and take a hit, and they can make a ton of distance and hopefully get away, and that discourages the killer from going after them.
And if you want to help yourself have a little boost, like you could maybe also run it with like overcome. So everyone gets a little. You get a boost included. Everyone else gets there, and then hopefully that get you to a safe place if the killer does
scatter
targets. So I personally I don't do tons of healing bills. I have seen do no harm work wonders. In end game. Duty of care I think is my favorite out of the 3.
I would agree with that. It's the best part.
Agreed.
But to some fun little facts that also kind of goes along with, I don't know if any of you guys have been following some of the controversy with Orela Rose.
No, I have not. I didn't know there was controversy.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, tell me more.
Bring the tea.
I know.
Well, a lot of that has to do with Orela being a trans woman. And as I mentioned before, she's not the first trans character in the game, which I didn't realize. I didn't
either.
Yeah, she technically is the first original survivor that's trans, but for those that didn't know, like I didn't know, back when I'm trying to figure out how to get my words together. Back when DVD did their thing with the Rainbow Siege 6, one of those characters is actually a trans man. So Isaac Nunes Oliveira, also known as, I'm going to probably say this wrong, Tubaro, is actually in the actual game. So in Rainbow Siege 6 and in DVD, he's a trans man. So I didn't even realize that because when those characters were kind of released, and I think in this case, Isaac Nunes Oliveira, it's a legendary outfit for Renato.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were released, I don't play Rainbow Siege 6. I really had no connection to the characters, so I didn't even go read lore.
I had no idea. Yeah, because Rainbow Siege 6.
It's Rainbow Six Siege, by the way.
Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I knew.
Sorry, people.
As you can tell, we don't play Rainbow Six Siege.
I've heard of it, and I know it was very like.
And I'm even looking at the whole name right here, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and I'm saying it wrong. Please forgive me for those that really love Rainbow Six Siege.
And you said it, and I just went with it because I thought that's how you said
it.
No, I was like,
I just said it with so much confidence, and then mocking had to go shoot me out of the water.
I had to go check. You were saying very confident.
It sounded
Rainbow Six Siege.
Correct.
Thank
you. It's okay. It's fine.
Well, okay. Are y'all surprised it's taken them this long to come out with the original character that's trans, or even well, because let's think. Remember when they made their diversity? I don't know what to call it, like statement, and then they decided to make David gay, and everyone was like, "Why didn't they make a new character?" And now finally,
why wasn't that part of like the original lore? It was like a J.K. Rowling backpedaling Dumbledore's gay thing.
Yeah, because I think everyone expected like the next original survivor would be, representing.
Yes. So, especially since they do a lot of events, like what is that streaming event they do? Is it like Rainbow in the Fog or something?
I think so. And they have all the charms and stuff too. And so I'm not trying to like complain, but I'm just like, I'm kind of surprised it's taken them like
years,
I want to say. I'd have to go try to find out when they did the stuff.
It's called It's called Into the Rainbow. And they usually do a lot of streaming and live streaming. And then, like you said, they have a lot of the charms and stuff. So I am a little surprised that they haven't made it earlier.
Like there wasn't a character earlier. But I also think if you look at the content that's been coming out and a lot of the license and stuff they've had. So I don't know, again, and that's something they've talked about is them explaining more of the process of how they work. And maybe they were just waiting for the right time. But I'm grateful that we got Orela when we got her. I also didn't realize, and again, like this is just representing the various types of people that exist in this world, right? But I never even realized that we already had a transgender survivor in the game.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised at that as well, which I can understand why, like, it doesn't have to be publicized because this is a fictional character, but at the same time, as a person, like, we just go live our lives, and every day we're not going to walk around, if you are trans, be like, I'm trans, I'm trans. You're just living your life. Like, I'm not going to walk around and be like, I love cats. I love cats.
Dogs.
That's just an aspect of my personality. Or I'm a white girl. I'm a white girl. Like, you're just living your life.
I am a proud wiener dog owner, so I will say that.
Yes. So, and I think the way they did everything was okay, but I understand. I think that's one of the things is when I did look at stuff. So, for those that knew that Jabaro was trans, I went to the Reddit, and that was a lot of the feedback was, well, you're bringing, somebody in from another game, but where's the first original trans survivor? Was, I think, a lot of feedback they got.
Well, I think it's because, like, the Rainbow Six Siege, it's a cut from Renato. It's not like an actual character.
Yes,
and it's not their original character. So I think people were just wanting behavior to actually develop a character, not just take stuff from other licenses.
Yeah, I could understand that.
Maybe it was a way for them to gauge reception, which for the most part, I feel like those that play Dead by Daylight, it's a pretty inclusive community. So I couldn't imagine there being bad reception when one of the main complaints when we got Jabaro, and I'm probably saying that wrong. From my understanding, it's supposed to be like Portuguese for shark.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So
yeah.
It's Portuguese. I'm just not sure. I don't speak Portuguese, so I'm not sure how.
Portuguese for shark. I think
we're having a hard enough time with English. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's spelled similar to, I believe, how Sao Paulo is pronounced. So maybe it's something. I don't know. I feel bad.
No, when I looked it up, I believe it said Portuguese for shark. It's his call sign, which was
interesting. But see, like, well, I guess they didn't say anything about it because they're like, oh, we assume you know who that is if you play the game.
Yeah.
But, like, I had no clue. When I read that in the wiki, I was like, we do?
Yeah, I didn't know either until I was researching stuff for Orela. But to some of the stuff going on as well, which I don't think I've been playing a lot of Orela. And the very first couple matches I had with Orela, I was confused by stuff that happened. So my very first 2 matches ever playing with Orela, I was playing with our friend Padfoot and her husband. The killer would not go anywhere near me. They weren't chasing me. They weren't hooking me. I was trying to take protection hits. They would avoid me. At one point, I was asking Padfoot's husband, I was like, do you not think I'm in a bright yellow jacket?
I'm over here.
Can they not see me? And he was like, I'm just as confused as you are. And both times I got out, and I was trying to play altruistically. I was trying to take chase. I got out both times. And then I had a couple matches where I was aggressively tuddled. And then I went and I was like, let me see what's going on. So on some parts of the DBD universe, I guess there was a lot of tunneling of Orela because she is a transgender woman. And people were
I never would have thought that.
Yeah, people
but I'm
were
not horrible, so
it never crossed our mind because we don't think like that. But people were purposely tunneling her out, or I have heard from people who main killers that survivors were sandbagging or leaving them on the hook. I had a couple videos I saw on TikTok, the killers being like, hey, I'm very grateful for me being able to stand next to like Orela and her getting off, and someone was like, yeah, I let her off and then I killed everybody else. So I was like, oh, okay, that might explain my first 2 matches. If the killer knew that Orelas were having a bad time, they probably that way they left me alone. I can say I don't think we've really experienced a lot of that, but it has started to show up on my TikTok feed of people having really awful names if they're playing killer or playing survivor, and then if there's an Orela, just whoever's playing Orela is having a bad time. So
that's rude.
Don't do that, people.
Yeah.
This is a game. We're supposed to be having fun. and leave your beliefs at the door. I think.
Like, just play the game.
Yeah.
Tunnel equally, okay?
Yeah.
Be an equal opportunity tunneler.
Yeah, if you're going to tunnel
all the time, and it's not
everybody.
playing Orela.
So that was some of the stuff I heard
interesting.
was
I hadn't gone
on.
onto DBD TikTok, so I wasn't aware that was going on. But yeah, that's sad.
I agree.
I'm not real surprised, though.
I mean, yes, I shouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, with everything that happened when a lot of the Pride charms came out, with everything that happened with Claudette and the mask that Bubba could wear, there's some bad eggs. Yeah, there's some bad eggs in the community for sure.
I guess it's because when they made you said David, right?
Yes, it was David.
Yeah. When they made David gay, I guess I thought oh, well, everyone's super cool with it. I didn't think of anything of it.
I think that the kind of issue people had with David was that I think people felt like they just slapped it on David instead of making a new character. Okay. I don't think anyone was against David being gay. It was just it felt really rushed, cool. Not really thought. I mean, they ended up making lore for it in Rift. But it was just kind of I don't know, I guess just kind of out of nowhere. I think people, like I said, I think people expected that they would make the next original Survivor would be gay or trans. It was just they just slapped it on David and called it a day, and people, I don't you with that.
Yeah, they're just cool, okay, whatever.
Look, we did what you wanted. Here we go. Yeah. We just chose a Survivor. And made them gay. There we go. We're done.
I think it had less to do with the choice and more to do with it was an ask, but a lot of people didn't like the execution. But for all we know,
they're just wanting more. More.
It's very true within the LGBTQIA plus community. I almost could not get that out. That a lot of people don't just practically come out. So I can also understand that as well. What if David is just scared of coming out? And I think it was just more of how it was done. But as I said earlier, Rello is voiced by Angelica Ross, who is an actress, businesswoman, and transgender rights advocate. And she is a trans woman herself, which I thought was really cool. And the voice actor for Sparrow is done by the same voice actor that does his voice in Rainbow Six Siege. Did I get it right that time?
Yes.
Okay.
The numbers in the middle.
And he is a trans man. So I thought that was cool. And for those that don't know, we do have other people that are very scary. Unknown is voiced by, I believe, a trans woman.
I believe that's correct.
I don't want to misquote that. I'm pretty sure I'm right, though. So we are getting a lot of more representation, which is really cool, and I'm very happy with Orela. Something also really cool with Orela, for those that don't know, she has 2 cosmetics that you can get. She's got her night shift outfit and day shift outfit. And starting May 6th, going all the way through May 27th, all proceeds from the sales of those outfits are going to be donated to, and I'm not even going to say this correctly, I don't know how. I'm going to say CHU St. Justine Foundation. So 100% of the profits are going to be donated. And as part of the press release, it says, compassionate and determined, Orela works as an EMT, caring for those in the time of need and establishing herself as a force for good, both inside and outside the entity's realm. As a part of her release, Dead by Daylight is teaming up with, and I don't even know how you say it. I'm just going to say CHU St. Justine's Foundation, a charity dedicated to pediatric advances for the benefit of mothers-to-be, children, and their families at Montreal's CHU St. Justine, the largest mother and child center in Canada.
Nice.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So that is all things Orela. Also, I think we mentioned this earlier, but just to say it again, because it was something that we all really liked, you can see the little clip of Angelica Ross doing lines for Orela. I know I saw it on TikTok. I did see it on, I was about to say Facebook. I don't know why.
It was on
YouTube.
Facebook.
Okay, it was on Facebook.
I saw it on Facebook.
And we thought that was a really cool thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I don't do the TikTok, so yes, everything I see is on Facebook.
Okay, I do the TikToks. I know.
And usually the ones on Instagram are TikToks that people reposted.
Yeah. So you get to see her voice the lines. And it's pretty cool to have that kind of backstage pass and see how the lines are being recorded. Angelica Ross, she's very animated. So at one point when she's like introducing herself as Orela, she actually like puts out her hand like she's going to shake your hand. So it's really cool to see how, voice actors or actors in general work. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely would recommend. And
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's cool that they're doing that to give us an insight on, how these voice lines are done as part of this character creation.
Yeah, I agree. I love behind the scenes stuff on
I do too.
Games, movies, so yeah, and it's just interesting to see them kind of get into character and deliver the voice lines, and just kind of in awe because I'm not like an actress or anything, so like being able to like scream, because like also a DVD, right, you gotta do all the like grunting, the injured sounds, the screaming and all of that, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
I agree. I like, so far one of my favorite lines is after you get unhooked, or after you get off the hook and you're being healed, she goes, I hope that hook isn't rusted. I'm like, well, I think that's the least of your worries.
Exactly. You've just been impaled.
Is there one where she says something about tetanus? I can't remember. I thought that was, maybe it was just the rusty hook one.
Yeah, I like the rusty hook one. Yeah, I'm looking at the lines right now. I like,
because we just played and I thought she said something.
Yeah, it was the hook one. When you came and unhooked me, she said the hook one as you were healing.
Okay. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
There's a couple where she's like, this place, I recognize it from a Barra's story. She does have a line that says, I think Sable talked about this place on All Things Wicked. So anyone have any final thoughts on Orela?
No,
I think we covered a lot and everything.
Yeah. I agree. We love doing the lore. We love finding interesting tidbits and facts for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Let us know whose lore you want to maybe hear next. I know we've talked about doing some more deep dives. I still want to do Blight, but that's probably going to be a two-parter, guys. Like, that's extensive.
Oh, yeah. He has
Blight's got he's got his hand in like everyone else's lore is the problem.
He's involved with everybody. Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you're like the entity's right-hand man, though. You know what I mean? That's all we have for you today. As always, we appreciate you all. And as we like to say, we want to wish you a good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening wherever you are. And bye.
Bye.